heading over to the National Library of Kolkata. Now, this is a place where prestigious colonial history literally clashes with some deeply rooted, absolutely chilling supernatural lore.
You see, it's a place of massive contradiction. On one hand, you have India's largest public library, right? It's a highly revered institution holding this incredible collection of rare and ancient books that draw students and scholars from all over the world. By day, it's this quiet, peaceful sanctuary for education. But flip the coin, and it's also known as one of India's most haunted locations. By night, the atmosphere reportedly completely shifts. We're talking wandering spirits and security guards who are literally terrified of taking the night shift. So you might be wondering, how does a revered academic hub hold such a dark, secondary identity?
Well, let's get into Section 1, India's most haunted library, looking at the dual identity of Kolkata's pride. Moving right along to Section 2, a terrifying night shift. This covers Veer Bahadur's first new moon. So meet Veer Bahadur. He was a deeply skeptical security guard working the night shift. He absolutely didn't believe in the supernatural, and for a while, his job guarding the western lawns was, well, perfectly normal. But then came Amavasya. That's the dark of the new moon. In Indian folklore, this specific lunar phase is strongly tied to heightened supernatural activity. And as Veer sat alone in the pitch darkness of his guard room, just trying to tune his radio, things took a really chilling turn.
The isolation sets in fast here. First, his radio frequency completely dies, nothing but static. A few minutes later, this entirely unexplainable voice cuts right through that static. And then boom, a massive, deafening crash echoes from inside the locked library. He said it sounded like entire bookshelves were just collapsing. He tries to use the phone. Dead. So he is entirely on his own.
Let's look a little closer at that voice. Tonight is my night. It was spoken in this furious, upper-class British accent, sounding exactly like an officer declaring he would spare absolutely no one. This is the exact moment our skeptical guard feels a wave of pure panic, and honestly, against his better judgment, it forces him inside the dark library to investigate. Which brings us to Section 3, the ghostly librarian encounter, trapped with the entities. Once inside, the focus of the lore shifts to a 14-year-old student named Saurabh. Apparently, he lost track of time reading in an inner room and found himself locked in from the outside. When he turns around, he sees her, a terrifying woman in a white dress with a completely disfigured face just hovering in the air. Now, at first, she completely ignores him. She's obsessively organizing the bookshelves. But when he screams, she turns and snarls, forcing the kid to hide under a reading table. She then intermittently peeks under the table, just horrifically smiling at him, until Veer finally manages to break open the door and the sobbing boy escapes.
Okay, Section 4, the headless British official, the apparition in the palanquin.
So, after securing the boy, Veer heads back outside to the western lawns. Suddenly, he notices a centuries-old palanquin, like an old enclosed litter used for transport, just resting in the middle of the grass, and that was absolutely not there before. He starts hearing these faint cries of pain coming from inside it. Cautiously, he walks up, pulls back the curtain, and finds a man dressed in British-era clothing, covered in brutal injuries, looking, well, neither fully alive nor entirely dead. This battered man glares furiously right at Veer, and then we hit the climax of the night. The man's head simply severs from his body and rolls right to Veer's feet. No way, right? It's the absolute breaking point. The once skeptical guard flees the library grounds in pure terror, and he never returned to his post. All right, let's make sense of this in Section 5, Secrets of the Raj, Demystifying the Folklore. So, why these specific ghosts? Well, the next morning, when Veer officially quits his job, a senior guard reveals the actual history behind the trauma. Turns out, before it was a public library, this massive sprawling estate was the home of India's first Viceroy General, Warren Hastings. The physical, often brutal history of the British Raj has deeply imprinted itself right onto the modern identity of the building. It's like a giant historical puzzle, and the lore actually connects these supernatural reports directly to real historical figures. That angry British voice claiming "Tonight is my night" on the radio, that's said to be Warren Hastings himself claiming the night. The terrifying woman organizing books? That aligns perfectly with Lady Metcalfe. She was a famously strict former librarian who reportedly still punishes those who leave her books messy. And the headless man? Historically, that points to Philip Francis. He was severely injured in a duel right on those very lawns. Hastings actually sent a palanquin to save him, but he died before it arrived. So now he's seemingly trapped in a loop, reliving his fatal final moments. And this is exactly why Vere's specific shift was so violently active. Because while Lady Metcalf might express her displeasure over disorganized books on any given night, Philip Francis's gruesome manifestation in the palanquin is tied exclusively to the darkness of Amavasya, the new moon.
Finally, we reach Section 6, the Dark Basement Legacy, Echoes of a Violent Past. There is one final, really terrifying detail Vere encountered right before fleeing outside to the lawn, and that involves the library's basement. He had heard these massive thuds coming from below. When he went to investigate, the basement door just opened on its own. He heard agonizing screams, literally the sound of someone being brutally beaten. In the dark, he saw a figure bound in heavy chains, but the moment his flashlight hit the spot, the room was completely empty.
See, this wasn't just a hallucination. Historically speaking, that basement was allegedly used as a colonial-era torture chamber. Innocent people were bound and beaten down there, losing their lives in the dark. Their agonizing screams are still reported by modern guards today. It really shows us exactly how the brutal reality of the British Raj has morphed into a modern-day urban legend. The trauma literally echoes in the architecture.
So we want to leave you with this final thought. History always leaves a mark. If you strip away the ghost story, you are still left with the very real, very heavy weight of colonial history. Knowing the dark legacy of the Raj that permeates these walls, would you dare to sit and read here after the sun goes down?